A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. It is good to have you with us once again. We've got a very busy show for you coming up in just a couple of minutes or so. Our friends, I don't know if they're your friends, they're my friends, the Kiefer brothers, going to join us talking about their new show on the Travel Channel, Code of the Wild. But I want to get started with another interview dealing with a story that just absolutely has blown up over the past 24 hours or so out of Colorado, where a teenager went target shooting with his mom. Mom took him out of school. They went up into the mountains. They were shooting safely and responsibly. And then somebody found out about this because the teenager posted something on social media. And the next thing they know, when they get home, the police are at their door. And apparently somebody had reported this kid under the state's Safe to Tell program as a potential threat to the Loveland High School there. Now, police talked with the teenager. They talked with mom. They quickly determined, okay, there's no threat here. This was just, good folks doing something that, frankly, is something more parents should do. Teach their kids how to be safe and responsible with a firearm. The school district, however, says they didn't get any sort of notification from the police until nearly 24 hours had gone by. So the school district gets involved and they say, well, listen, you can't come back to school until there's a threat assessment hearing to determine whether or not you are a threat. The good news is that threat assessment hearing is held yesterday. School also determined, okay, there's no threat here, and the teenager is back in school today. But Lesley Hollywood, who broke this story, she's the founder of Rally for Our Rights in Colorado, joined me just a short time ago to talk not only about the latest developments in this case, but really about some of the flaws in the Safe to Tell program. And Lesley's concerned that these flaws are going to be exacerbated when Colorado's red flag law goes into effect in January of next year. Take a look and a listen. Lesley, thanks so much for coming on the program today. It's really good talking with you. I appreciate you actually covering the story out there in Colorado.
Yeah, I think, it's an important story. I feel like it probably happens more than we even realize, but typically it's kind of just brushed under the rug, or parents don't really have resources. They don't know who to reach out to get help. So I think it's important that we bring it to light and people are aware that this kind of stuff is actually happening.
Absolutely. And so this mom in question actually belongs to Rally for Our Rights, right? She's a part of your organization?
Yeah, she is. So Rally for Our Rights, we're a very grassroots type of organization, lots of boots on the ground work that we do. So when something happens to somebody who's involved in our organization, they know they can reach out and that boots will happen, boots on the ground will follow. So I was really glad that she happened to be connected with us and that we're able to jump on it and get help right away. And just bring it to light. I think that this stuff needs to go public.
Well, absolutely. And I think in this specific situation, the awareness, the public awareness, may have actually helped bring this to a quicker resolution than it would have otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the publicity of it ended up in the hands of elected officials, it ended up in the hands of other concerned parents, community members, and even attorneys who were contacting the superintendent and the school board members, and were just, like this isn't okay. It's not okay for a school to violate the civil liberties of a student because of somebody's fear of a video they posted on Snapchat. And that's where I think we really need to start making these connects. In this case in particular, the fact that the police had already been there and had already talked to the kid, talked to the parents, knew they weren't a threat, and that they still continued with the action from the school as if this is just no big deal. It is a big deal. It's a really big deal.
It's absolutely a big deal. And you're right. The disconnect between the police and the school district is troubling, because the school's claiming that they didn't get the police report until almost 24 hours after it had been made.
Yeah, so apparently the report came in the afternoon and of the day that he went shooting, of the kid and his mother went shooting. The report came in that afternoon. They were up at out of service. We're here in Colorado. You get for the mountains, you aren't going to have any cell service. Come back down. The police were looking for the kid, and they connect. And Nate talks to them. Justine, the mom, talks to them. The dad even talks to them, who actually wasn't even there. And the whole thing gets resolved with police. The police say everything you did was 100% legal. These videos aren't threatening. You have made no threats. You are not a threat to anyone or yourself. And everything was resolved. So the police go on their way, and you would assume that in light of how serious they take this type of stuff, that in light of the fact that there potentially could have been a school shooting the next day, that the police would have immediately gone to the school and immediately said, everything is fine. Here's the all clear. The kid can come to school tomorrow. Let's not screw up his life anymore at this point. And I actually believe that they did. And I'm probably going to submit some Open Record Act requests just to find out, because the truth is if they didn't, and it really did take 24 hours, there are far bigger security issues at that school than parents even realize.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that you've written about is the Safe to Tell program, right? This is a means by which the students, if they, come across somebody who they think is a threat or somebody is making a threat, they can report this anonymously. But clearly, this situation demonstrates some flaws here. And in fact, you said that some of these kids actually referred to Safe to Tell as Safe to SWAT.
Yeah, and swatting being, whoever doesn't know what swatting is, it's basically where you get law enforcement or emergency officials involved in a situation claiming somebody had done something or said something. Police show up, their life's in a big disarray for a little while until everything is kind of comes back around and they realize it was just a false report. That's swatting. It's actually a term that's been coined, and it's used actually by gamers all the time. And so now these kids, what they have done is they have actually, and I know I've got a daughter who just graduated high school, and I've got two others in school, but they've actually coined this. They now call it Safe to SWAT, which basically means they can anonymously pick up the phone, call this number, say this person made this threat, or this person did this or did that, and next thing you know, the cops are at that person's house. That's exactly what happened with this situation. I know in my school district last year, the Safe to Tell, there was a kid that was making false reports to Safe to Tell every day for 4 days in a row. And my entire school district was shut down for 4 days in a row until they could track down who this kid was. It's supposed to be anonymous. By the time this kid had done it 4 days in a row, they tracked the IP address to figure out who was doing it, and that person was actually charged. It was a female freshman at the high school here in town. But 4 days they shut down the schools, and it took them that long to determine, okay, this can't be anonymous anymore. It's a very flawed system, and honestly, I've been saying for a while now that red flag ERPO laws are going to be safe to tell for adults.
Well, I mean, that's certainly one of the concerns, right? Particularly when you get into red flag laws that allow almost anybody, to request one of these protective orders. There are some states where it's only police. There are some states where it's police and family members. But New York State, for example, it can be, coworkers. It can be dating partners, former dating partners. It can be former teachers. If they had the student 5 months earlier, they can still call police and request one of these emergency violence restraining orders. And so I think that you're right. I think that there is a genuine concern that while the intention behind these programs may be good, the implementation of these programs may turn out to be they may turn out to have some really unforeseen consequences.
Definitely. And actually, Colorado, we just passed a red flag ERPO law this past spring. It goes into effect January 1st, 2020. And we are one of those states that has the very broad range of people who can actually request it. And they can actually be done anonymously, to be honest with you, which is crazy. You can file and you can say, well, I don't feel safe giving out my name or my address, and I want to do it anonymously, and they'll let you file anonymously here in Colorado. But it's a huge list. It's ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, former roommates, anyone you've ever dated. I mean, I've long said, it's like, oh, it's that Tinder date gone bad, or that roommate situation that ended terribly, because that happens a lot. Like my own daughter, who's 20, she had a roommate at one point who she ended up having to get out of that place as fast as she could because that kid was just becoming a threat. Undoubtedly, had there been an ERPO law, he would have actually used that against her just as retaliation. These broad ranges of people who can do this, and then how easy it is to file. Here in Colorado, you can do it over the phone. You don't even have to go to the court. You don't even have to ever show your face. And it's free. They don't even charge. There's no filing fee for it. I mean, our red flag law in Colorado is going to be safe to tell for adults, and it's going to be a very, very dangerous implementation of this. And I think, one of the things that the mother Justine in this situation in Loveland, one of the things her and I talked about was that had this red flag law been in place, she easily could have been also red flagged and had the police show up ready to confiscate her guns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And a situation that was bad enough could have gotten exponentially worse.
Yeah. And, and then, the lack of due process, just the fact that not only is her son involved in this, all of a sudden he's just going and having some mother-son bonding time. I mean, kudos to the mom for taking her son shooting and teaching him about this and teaching him about firearm safety. These things are really important in society today that we teach kids those things, I think is critical. And the fact that in doing that means that you could potentially end up with the police at your door with a warrant ready to come in and confiscate your guns. And what do the police have? The police have guns. I mean, it's this whole idea that we're going to send these people with weapons to homes to collect guns from people with weapons. I mean, we're just talking about going down a dangerous, dangerous road. And not to say that Justine would have done that. She was incredibly cooperative through this entire situation, but what a frustrating situation to have to land yourself in. All because you did something that is you went shooting with your son. And because people can just simply pick up the phone and make anonymous reports and boom, your whole life is turned upside down.
Well, listen, Lesley, I appreciate you coming on the program and talking about this. Where can folks find out more information about Rally for Our Rights?
So we have a website, rallyforourrights.com. There's tons of information on there. We write a lot about different stories. We have events that we do. We're doing some red flag seminars across the state of Colorado. So especially if you're in Colorado, come get connected, rallyforourrights.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff.
You got some really good T-shirts for sale there on the website too.
We do. Thank you. Yeah, we have a pretty cool store, and we get these ideas sometimes, and we'll throw this stuff together, and you get to the point where it's you got it. I mean, we have to keep repping that Second Amendment. It's important.
Absolutely. You may see a Rally for Our Rights T-shirt on Cam and Company at some point. I think I might place an order here before long.
Well, that would be cool. Yes, we would love that.
Lesley, again, thank you so much for coming on the program. Thanks for everything you're doing out there in Colorado, and I hope we get a chance to talk again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me on.
So yeah, we'll be paying a lot more attention to what's going on out there in Colorado. And again, I believe that these programs are done with the best of intentions, but I also believe that the folks who put these programs in place are not thinking about the unintended consequences. And you absolutely need to do that because it is not unreasonable for gun owners to be concerned about abuses of these programs. It's not unreasonable at all because it's happening. And it is up to the supporters of these programs to address those concerns and to work for ways to prevent abuse of these programs when they are put in place. Now, on a lighter note, there's a new show out on Travel Channel, started a couple of weeks ago. You can find it at 10 p.m. Well, I'll let the Kiefer brothers tell you when you can find it. But it's a great program. It's called Code of the Wild. And the Kiefer brothers, who I've known for several years, going back to, I think, their first program on Sportsman Channel, joined me for a few minutes to talk about this new adventure series that really sees them going all around the globe, trying to uncover and solve some of history's greatest mysteries. Take a look. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Hey, what's up, man? Our pleasure.
It's good to actually see you inside. It's kind of rare to see you inside.
Very rare.
So tell me about the new program, Code of the Wild, on Travel Channel. I got to say, I got a chance to catch this week's episode in Virginia, and I was captivated. I thought this was a great show.
Well, thank you. It's a little bit of a different show for Chris and I. It actually combines a couple of things. One thing that we're known for, which is going out into the middle of nowhere and some of the remote places, doing what we do, living off the land. But then the other side of the show is kind of this history side where Chris and I are kind of trying to solve some of history's greatest mysteries. So it's a pretty good combination of a couple of things that we love to do.
Is that something that you guys have been sort of working towards for a while? Kind of expanding beyond okay, let's drop the Kiefer brothers out in the middle of nowhere to add in that other element of let's go explore a story and not just explore a place.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the natural progression of what Casey and I always love to do. And we've been in some remote locations like Alaska, New Zealand, the Yukon, and it's great. But I think actually getting in there and being able to uncover some stuff that is a mystery out there, but it takes a special skill set to kind of push it a little bit further has always been kind of the next progression.
So what are some of the places that you visit in this first season of Code of the Wild?
Oh, we've been all over. I mean, the thing with Code of the Wild is, there's a lot of people that have tracked some of these mysteries down, and they've done a great job getting to a certain point, and where their journey ends is basically where Chris and I's journey starts. So, we spent a month in Brazil, living with a tribe down there called the Makushi. We spent a month in Ecuador. We were in Alaska for a couple of weeks. We've been Arizona, New Mexico, Kentucky, Virginia, upstate New York. We kind of been all over with this thing.
I mean, that's amazing that you guys are able to spend a month in one location, because I know how tight the shooting schedules are, and this is not your only show. So The fact that you can get in there, it's not like you're just, dropping down for a couple of days, getting the shots that you need, and then taking off. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, we're spending time, and I think that's what it takes, though, to actually push the story further, is to spend some time. And it's interesting, like when you're looking, like you mentioned last week's episode, we were looking for the missing Confederate gold. Did we find the gold? No, we didn't find the gold, but did we push the story further where it might have gone and found some things along the way that might open some light, shed some light? I think that's our goal, is if we can go in and actually shed light on the story. When we were in Brazil, taking the Percy Fawcett story of the Lost City of Gold and placing him 1,500 miles north of where anybody else has done that with the Makushi tribe, and the fact that he was there on his way to Mount Haraima, those types of things for us is actually a win. And so, there's finding the actual City of Gold, and then there's pushing the story further, which I think is a part of what we love to do.
Well, you might want to push the story further. I'm looking for gold, dude.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you wouldn't say no if you found the Confederate gold, if you found the Lost City of Gold,
looking as hard
right?
as we can in the time that we have available to make it happen. I want the gold too.
Okay, that's good to know. So how did you guys decide, okay, these are the things that we're going to focus on in this season, in season one? These are the mysteries that we're going to try to tackle.
So we got a great production team in place. I think it comes down to us and the production team on the back end kind of looking at what the stories are and what it takes to get to them, what it takes to potentially find them. So we've got a team of people that help us to do, a ton of research alongside of us. And then, we kind of look at the locations and say, all right, what's the story? What's it take to get out there? Is this something that's plausible and something that we could actually lay our hands on? So that's really where it starts.
And how big of a production team do you all have when you're out in the wild?
With this one, I think we've got six.
Six total.
Yeah, 6 total between camera and producer, things like that. So, yeah, we've got 6 on this one, which is about 4 more than we normally have. So
I was going to say, look at you guys getting big here with an entourage.
How about it?
And that's still skeleton crew.
Yeah.
When you talk about what we're trying to do out there, that's still running skeleton crew.
Well, I remember talking to you guys for the first season of Dropped.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was really, you talk about a skeleton crew. I mean, it was basically you two, and did you have one other person?
Two other people. Yep, that's it. And that's still
amazing.
Dropped.
Yeah, dropped is like that's an easy one because of that, because we're just there in one location. But this one, there's so much logistics, and there's so much it goes into, going from one location to the other, all around Brazil, all around Utah, looking for Aztec gold. So at the end of the day, there's so much that goes on. We got an amazing crew that have really done their jobs and their research. So it's exciting.
And how much of these mysteries were you aware of before you started digging in here? Because, I mean, you just mentioned Aztec gold in Utah.
Yeah.
I like to think of myself as a history buff. I've never heard of Aztec gold in Utah before.
Yeah.
We're pretty well aware of all of them. I'm a history guy. So always have been a huge history buff. So diving into kind of the back end on some of these stories. And that's part of the exciting part too, is to bring some stories that might not be as mainstream out to an audience that may have never heard about it before. You know, we looked at certain things like, you know, the DB Cooper story and stuff like that. People have seen it. People have done it. Let's find a story that most people are unaware of that happens, and let's go try to shed light on that. So
it seems to me like you probably have a lot of ideas that didn't make it into this first season. When you think about going forward, do you already have like seasons 2, 3, and 4 already planned out about where you want to go and what mysteries you want to tackle?
Well, I think the interesting part now is because the show's hit the air, we're getting all kinds of ideas that are coming in from everybody that's like, hey, did you know about this? Or they're sending us, direct messages and links and everything else to like, I want you to come down. I know where it's at, but there's no way I can get there. So we're vetting a lot of these things out as we continue to kind of get those things. But we have a couple that we'd really want to go do.
All right. You want to give us any like previews? Any hints?
Nope.
No.
You know how we roll.
I know. Well, you don't want to tip other people off, right? Because then they might get there before you do.
Exactly.
So I guess, it has been a while since we've talked. And I'm just curious. I mean, with this new program, Travel Channel, it's obviously a much bigger platform. Are you guys still having fun?
Every day. Yeah. The day I stop having fun is the day I stop doing this entirely. So I'm still having a hell of a time.
Oh, this has been, I think, the most fun. I mean, Alaska and being out there is incredible, but like seeing some of the places and being able to get, to some of these crazy international locations and the culture. I mean, when we were in Ecuador, we went downtown and we went through this little city and stuff, and we went and had some intestine soup and tried the local fare and like talking to different people down. I mean, that kind of stuff has been so much fun to just take in the culture, and this show has allowed us to do that.
Oh, and from there we went rappelling in a cloud forest.
Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't get. I mean,
yeah.
It's not a bad day. It's just Wednesday.
Rappelling in a cloud forest sounds a lot more fun than eating intestine soup.
Yeah,
I have to say.
There's no doubt. It is. Trust me.
All right, so I got to ask as well. I know that you all are Second Amendment supporters. Has traveling, to places like Ecuador and Brazil, has that given you not that you guys don't appreciate the freedoms that we have in this country, but has it given you a different perspective on the rights and the freedoms that we have here?
I think it certainly has. I mean, especially, getting into South America. I'd never been to South America before. So to get into some of these other countries and just kind of, see how people live and what daily life is like compared to what life is like here. I think, for as much as we think we live a chaotic life here in the States sometimes, going somewhere like Ecuador really kind of put it into perspective to me, because Ecuador is chaos. Yeah. I mean, the people are great and the people are fantastic, but it's busy. It's chaotic. Even like something as simple as driving. Like, I really don't think there's rules of the road down there. No. I mean, there's supposed to be, but it's like everyone for themselves, and the only rule is don't die. I mean, it's insane. So I think going to, and experience some of these other cultures really does kind of just open you up on, man, just when I thought my day might be chaotic, it's nothing compared to a normal day in some of these places.
Now you really do understand first world problems.
Exactly.
Yeah, true story.
That's very true.
Well, listen, I'm so glad you guys could spend a couple of minutes with us. How can folks watch Code of the Wild? When are y'all on Travel Channel?
So we're on Travel Channel Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock right now.
Eastern. Yep.
Eastern time, 10, 9, 8 across. So you can check it out there. And then, of course, on social media, Kiefer Brothers and Chris and Casey Kiefer individually, we have all kinds of amazing stuff going on now.
And I am on a mission right now to try to get more Instagram followers than Chris is. So anybody out there listening, hit me up on Instagram.
No. Hit me up too, and then I'll stay ahead of them.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
I'm going to let you all battle that. Yeah. But I do appreciate you coming on the program. It is always great talking with you guys. Thank you so much, and look forward to doing this again at some point soon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime, Cam. Appreciate it.
Anytime, bud.
All right, thanks so much. Chris, Casey, Kiefer, the Kiefer Brothers from Code of the Wild on Travel Channel here on Bearing Arms Cam and Company. All right, finally, before we get out of here, we've got an armed citizen story for you. Jackson, Mississippi. Actually, this a pretty recent story reported on Friday morning. A armed robber breaking into a home of an armed citizen. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you got to have somebody break into your home, thankfully you can protect and defend yourself. 27-year-old Jonathan Jenkins is now behind bars. He is charged with residential burglary, armed robbery, and aggravated assault. According to police, Jenkins arrived at a hospital around 1:30 Friday morning, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He told officers he was shot while just walking down the street. Officers later learned that Jenkins matched the description of a suspect in an apartment shooting where a resident was at home when a man broke in, and this apartment dweller forced to protect and defend himself. So the resident, according to Jackson Police Department, not facing any charges. He was acting in self-defense. Mr. Jenkins, however, is facing some charges, and once he's released from the hospital, will likely be spending some time behind bars while he awaits a bond hearing. We'll try to give you any more details as they become available. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. As a matter of fact, we've got a story at Bearing Arms today, a follow-up on an armed citizen story from July in Virginia Beach at a 7-Eleven where a man was getting a big gulp and all of a sudden found himself in the midst of an armed robbery. That armed citizen is speaking out to the Virginian Pilot newspaper. It's a great story, and kudos to the newspaper for actually covering it, talking to this armed citizen. It's the type of coverage of armed citizen stories that you don't typically see in the local media. So kudos to the reporter, kudos to the paper, and really kudos to the armed citizen for speaking up and actually talking about what happened before, during, and after that moment when he was forced to defend himself and others. You can check that out at bearingarms.com. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your holiday weekend. We've got a special program coming up for you on Tuesday of next week. I do want to let you know I'm going to actually be taking some time off. I've got a family vacation that have been scheduled. So we'll have a new Bearing Arms Camping Company next Tuesday. We'll be off for Labor Day. And then hopefully that'll be beefy enough of a program on Tuesday. It'll give you some stuff to think about over the next few days. And then we'll be back with a new program, a new Bearing Arms Camping Company, September the 9th. We will, of course, be updating the bearingarms.com website each and every day with the latest Second Amendment news and information. Even while I am on vacation, we'll be doing that. In fact, I'll be doing a little bit of that. It'll be a little bit of a working vacation. Hey, if you like the show, you can find us as a podcast on Apple, on Stitcher, and on Spotify. Of course, you can subscribe to Town Hall Media at YouTube, and you can get the latest video version of Bearing Arms Camping Company each and every day, at least each and every day when we have a new program. Yeah, I know. I feel a little weird taking some time off. I kind of just got here, but we had this trip planned for a while, and Miss E really needs some time away. So I'm looking forward to being able to give that to her. So thanks as always for watching, for tuning in, for spreading the word, and we'll talk to you soon with another edition of Bearing Arms Camping Company before long.